Hello friends, very good afternoon and welcome to CEC live lectures. In my previous couple of lectures I started with glycosides, and in that we discussed that glycosides are the compounds that have two structural components. One is glycon, that is the sugar part, and other is the aglycon. And aglycon can be any secondary metabolite such as flavonoid, alkaloid, coumarin, and so on and so forth. Then we discuss about the properties of glycosides, how they can be extracted from plant matrix, what are the various precautions one has to take while extracting glycosides from plant matrix. Then we discuss about the classification of glycosides, and in this we discussed that glycosides can be classified either on the basis of the atom that forms the linkage between aglycon and the glycon part. And in this category we discussed that the glycosides having oxygen atom as the linking atom between sugar and non-sugar part, we call them as O glycosides. If carbon atom is involved in the linkage between sugar and non-sugar part, we call it C glycosides. And likewise we discussed about N glycosides and S glycosides. Then we discussed another type of classification that was based on the nature or the type of aglycon molecule. And in that we discussed that if alkaloid is attached to a sugar, then we call it as alkaloid glycoside. If a flavonoid is attached to the sugar, then we call it as flavonoid glycoside. Likewise, coumarin glycoside, steroidal glycosides, saponin glycosides, and so on and so forth. Then we discussed in the second part of the lecture about anthraquinone glycosides, that what are anthraquinone glycosides, different examples we discussed, the plants which contain anthraquinone glycosides, what are the biological effects of anthraquinone glycosides, and how you can detect the presence or absence of anthraquinone glycosides in a given plant material. So friends, in continuation with the previous two lectures, today I am going to discuss about the cardioactive glycosides. Now the name indicates, cardioactive indicates that these are the secondary metabolites or the glycosides which have effect on heart muscles, and therefore these glycosides are used in different types of cardioactive disorders, mainly congestive heart failure. Now cardioactive glycosides are also, or I will say that they can be considered as double-edged sword. Now when I say that double-edged sword, it means they have beneficial effects, vis-a-vis they also have certain toxic effects, and the balance between the beneficial and the toxic effect largely depends upon the dose of these glycosides. So we can say that the dose of the cardioactive glycosides or cardiac glycosides is an critical factor that determine whether the glycoside will be beneficial or it will be toxic to the patient. Now cardiac glycosides or cardioactive glycosides, they have a basic steroidal nucleus which is cyclopentane phenanthrene ring. As you can see the structure, it is a four ringed structure having different substitutes in terms of methyl and hydroxyl groups. So all these cardioactive glycosides will have this basic steroidal nucleus. Now as we discussed that glycosides are the compounds which have two structural components, one is the sugar and other is the aglycon moiety. And in case of cardioactive glycosides, the aglycon moiety is the steroidal nucleus, whereas the sugars that are attached with this aglycon moiety can be digitoxose, glucose, and rhamnose. These are the three major sugars that occur in different types of cardioactive glycosides. Now apart from these three sugars, we also see sarmentose, oleandrose, cymarose, and valarose. And you can see the structure of digitoxose sugar on your screens. Here the major difference is that a methyl group is present in place of CH2OH group, which is found normally in glucose. Now we move on to the properties of cardioactive glycosides, and as I told you that they have a basic steroidal nucleus. Along the steroidal nucleus they have two hydroxyl groups that are attached to 3rd carbon and 14th carbon in the structure, and these two hydroxyl groups form an important character of cardioactive glycosides. Now the sugar part is, or the sugar or the glycon moiety is generally attached to the 3rd carbon in the steroidal nucleus, And since I told you that steroidal nucleus have 4 rings A, B, C and D, these 4 rings have specific conformation or configuration: cis, trans and cis configuration. Ring A and B are attached with the help of cis configuration, B and C are attached with a trans configuration, and C and D are attached with a cis configuration. Now, another important characteristic feature of cardioactive glycoside is the presence of lactone ring, and this lactone ring is unsaturated. Now, lactone ring is important for the biological activity which we are going to discuss in structural activity relationship of cardioactive glycosides, but it is an important aspect of the cardioactive glycoside, and it also helps in classification of these glycosides. Now, we will discuss about the structural features that are important for the activity of these cardioactive glycosides, or the features that affect the activity of these cardioactive glycosides. So, first is the cis trans cis configuration. So, as I told you that steroidal nucleus have 4 rings, and all these 4 rings are attached in a cis trans cis configuration. Now, this cis trans cis configuration is essential for the cardioactive activity, and in this also the ring C and D, since I told you that ring C and D are attached with the cis configuration, now attachment of these 2 rings in cis configuration is an essential requirement for the glycosides to exhibit cardioactive property. And if the ring C and D are attached in a trans configuration, then obviously the cardioactive activity is lost. Then there are reports which show that the hydroxyl group that is present at 14th position is essential for the activity. Vis-a-vis, we also find reports wherein it is said that the hydroxyl group at carbon 14 is non-essential for the activity, as many reports said that if you remove the hydroxyl group from the 14th carbon, there is a slight decrease in the activity, but the activity is not lost, and that is why some papers say that the hydroxyl group at 14 carbon is non-essential. Now, if a hydroxyl group is present at the 16th carbon, the activity is substantially decreased, and in many cases the activity is completely lost. So, the hydroxyl group at 16th position is not required for the cardioactive glycosides. Now, we discussed in my previous lecture that the sugar attachment to the A glycon moiety basically impacts the biological activity indirect. When I say indirectly, it means the sugar moiety helps in the absorption of the non-sugar moiety across the membrane, by which the non-sugar moiety basically exhibit its biological effect with the full potency. Or in other words, we can say that since the sugar molecules enhances the absorption of A glycon moiety, they have a direct impact on the effective dose of the A glycon at which that particular moiety will exhibit biological activity. So, we can say that sugar molecules also affects the pharmacokinetic as well as pharmacodynamic properties of the cardioactive glycosides. And as I told you that lactone ring is a specific character of cardioactive glycosides, and it has been found that lactone ring is essential for the biological activity of the cardioactive glycoside, and if lactone ring is removed from the structure, then the cardioactive activity of these glycosides is completely lost. Now, we move on to the classification of cardioactive glycosides. So, as I told you that lactone ring is an important characteristic of these glycosides, and on the basis of lactone ring we can classify cardioactive glycosides, and we can classify them into 2 categories: cardenolides and Buffet dienolides. Now, as you can see the structures of cardenolides and Buffet dienolides, you will see that in cardenolides we have a 5-membered unsaturated lactone ring having a ketonic group, whereas in case of Buffet dienolide we have a 6-membered lactone ring with a ketone moiety attached to it. Now, in cardenolide, in the 5-membered lactone ring we have only 1 double bond, that is single unsaturation, whereas in case of Buffet dienolide we have 2 double bonds, and therefore the name dienolide is given to these type of cardioactive glycosides. So, in short, we will say that cardenolides have a 5-membered lactone ring, Buffet dienolides have 6-membered lactone ring, and there is single unsaturation in case of the lactone ring of cardenolide, and there are 2 double bonds in case of lactone ring of Buffet dienolides. So, broadly cardiac glycosides can be classified into cardenolides and bufadienolides. Now we move on to the distribution of these two types of cardiac glycosides. First I am going to discuss about cardenolides. Now cardenolides have a very limited distribution in comparison to the other secondary metabolites like alkaloids or flavonoids or steroids and so on and so forth. So these are largely distributed in different plant species belonging to specific genera under specific families. So I have given certain example. SLPDAC is one family, and plant species belonging to SLPas and Calotropis genus, they contain cardenolides, and Calotropis is commonly we call it as UC plant. Then the second family is Apocynaceae, and the plant species belonging to various genera like Apocynon, Nerium, Thievetia, Strophanthus, they contain cardenolides. And Nerium, we know that commonly it is known as Canair, and Strophanthus, the common example one can remember is Strophanthus combe. Then we have Scrofulariaceae. This family is important because it contains a genus Digitalis, and Digitalis is an important drug in terms of its therapeutic efficacy, therapeutic utilization, or I will say clinical utilization in congestive heart failure. Now Digitalis contain cardioactive glycosides, which we are going to discuss ahead, digitoxin, Jetoxin or purpurea glycoside as primary glycosides, which are very much beneficial or are still being clinically used for the treatment of congestive heart failure as they increase the force of contraction of heart muscles. Then we have a family Ranunculataceae, and under Ranunculataceae the genera Adonis and Helborus, their member contains cardenolides, and the members of Helborus genus, they also contain bufadienolides. Then Coronilla genus belonging to Fabaceae family, it also contains certain species that have cardenolides reported from these plants. Now we move on to the distribution of bufadienolides, and again these cardioactive glycosides are also distributed among monocots and dicots. In monocots, two families Liliaceae and Asparagaceae are known to have certain plant species that contain bufadienolides. So we have Convallaria, which belongs to Liliaceae family, Drema, which is now also known as Argenia, its members also contain bufadienolides. Then Kalanchoe and Tylicodon are the genera which belong to Crassulaceae family, and these plants also contain bufadienolides. Homeria and Morei genus belong to Iridaceae family. They are also known for the plant members that contain bufadienolides. Now apart from different plant species, bufadienolides are also found in certain animals, and in fact initially these type of constituents were isolated from animals or toads, and that is why the name bufa is given to these type of cardioactive glycosides. Now these glycosides or bufadienolides are, as I told you, that they were first isolated from toads, so they are found in different members of Bufo genus, Rhabdophis genus, which is a genus of particular type of snakes, and Photinus genus, which is for the fireflies, or commonly we call it as Jugnu. So the member belonging to these three genera of animal kingdom, they also contain bufadienolides which exhibit beneficial effects on the cardiac muscles. Now this table will show you that different plants that belong or that contain cardenolides vis-a-vis the examples of the glycosides that have been reported in these plants. So first one is Digitalis purpurea, and as I told you that Digitalis is an important genera or the genus which contain different species. Digitalis lanata is another species which contain cardioactive glycosides. Now purpurea contains purpurea glycoside A and purpurea glycoside B, which are the primary glycosides. Now when I say primary glycoside, it means that on hydrolysis these primary glycosides, they give rise to another type of glycosides which are known as secondary glycosides. So here I have given example of digitoxin and digoxin. These are nothing but these are the secondary glycosides which are obtained after hydrolysis of purpurea glycoside A and purpurea glycoside B. Then we have digitalis lanata, which contains lannatosides A and B. Again, these two glycosides are the primary glycosides. Then Nerium indicum is another plant which contains a cardioactive glycoside, oleandrin. Thievetia nerifolia, it contains thivation. Then Coronilla glauca, it contains coronillobioside. It's an example of bisaccharide, whereas digitoxin is an example of a trisaccharide. Then Strophanthus combe, strophantoside is the glycoside that has been isolated from this plant. Now here you can see the structures of the cardenolides or cardioactive glycosides. As I told you, digitoxin is a secondary glycoside which is obtained after hydrolysis of the primary glycoside, that is purpurea glycoside A. Now in cardioactive glycoside, another character is that if a glucose molecule is present as a sugar molecule, then that sugar or the glucose molecule is present at the terminal position in the sugar chain. So if we see that in case of digitoxin, you will see 3 digitoxose sugars are attached, and since it's a secondary metabolite that has been obtained from the hydrolysis of purpurea glycoside A. Now purpurea glycoside, in addition to this structure, has an additional, or I'll say has a terminal glucose molecule that is attached to the 3rd digitoxose sugar. So during the first step of hydrolysis of purpurea glycoside A, the glucose molecule is removed and we get digitoxin. Then the other examples are thivation and oleandrin. So digitoxin and thivation, we can say that these are the trisaccharide because 3 sugar molecules are attached, whereas oleandrin is a monosaccharide, only 1 sugar molecule is attached to it. Now this table shows you the example of plants that contain bufadienolides vis-a-vis the glycosides or bufadienolides that have been isolated from these plants. So Ergenia maritima is one example. It contains procelaridine A and celarinin. Celarinin is an A glycon that is obtained after hydrolysis of procelaridine A. Kalanchoe gracilis, kalankosides A, B and C are the bufadienolides. Now sometimes Kalanchoe genus is also considered as Bryophyllum. Sometimes there is confusion that Bryophyllum is synonymous to Kalanchoe, but Kalanchoe is a separate genus and Bryophyllum has been put under Kalanchoe. So one should not confuse Kalanchoe with Bryophyllum. Then the next example is of Homeria glauca, which contains 1,2-alpha epoxy celarosidine. So these are the examples of bufadienolides that have been isolated from their respective plants. And these are the structures of various bufadienolides. Celarin, as I told you, it's an A glycon. Procelaridine A is the glycosidic molecule which on hydrolysis give celarinin. Then kalanchosides A and kalanchoside C are the other examples of bufadienolide. Now we move on to the mechanism of action of these cardioactive glycosides. Now as I told you that they increase the force of contraction, and the major mechanism by which they increase the force of contraction is that they inhibit sodium potassium ATPase enzyme or the pump that is responsible for the transportation of sodium and potassium inside a particular cell. Now once the digitalis, say for example we talk about digitalis or digitoxin as a example of glycoside. So when digitoxin binds to sodium potassium ATPase, it inhibits its transportation mechanism, thereby increasing the concentration of sodium inside the cell. Now as the concentration of sodium increases inside the cell, another transfer pump that is present on the cell membrane, that is sodium calcium transport pump, gets activated and it start pumping sodium outside the cell, and in order to compensate the loss of sodium, it start influx of the calcium ion, and gradually the concentration of calcium ion inside the cell increases. So as the calcium ion increases, they are released from sarcoplasmic reticulum, then they bind to actin or myosin fibers in the cardiac muscles and thereby increases the force of contraction of cardiac muscles, which is helpful in the cases of congestive heart failure. And this increase of force of contraction of cardiac muscles is known as a positive inotropic effect of cardioactive glycosides. Now we move on to the extraction of cardioactive glycosides. Now, in my previous lecture, we discussed that these cardioactive glycosides or the in general glycosides, we have to take care of inactivation of the enzymes, because these enzymes are responsible for the hydrolysis of cardioactive glycosides. So the first step is to remove the interfering substances like waxes, other lipids, or the pigments that can interfere in isolation of cardioactive glycosides, and this process of removal such kind of material is known as defattening. And defattening is largely done by non-polar solvents like hexane or petroleum ether. So once defattening is done, we take the mark and then we go for the inactivation of the enzyme, which is largely done by treating the plant material for sufficient period of time with toluene. Now once this treatment is done, then we go for the extraction of the plant material. And extraction is largely done by using alcohol, methanol, or their or their aqueous mixture. So say for example, we have extracted the drug with hydroalcoholic mixture or any specific 80% alcohol or 70% alcohol. Now once the hydroalcoholic extract is produced, it is first then treated with lead hydroxide in order to further remove the interfering substances like tannins or other polyphenolic compounds. So as you will add lead hydroxide, these tannins or other polyphenolic compounds will get precipitated. Then you filter the extract. So now we get a filtrate that is rich in cardioactive glycosides. Now in order to further maintain their structural integrity, we have to maintain the pH of the filtrate to a range of 6 to 7. So after maintaining the pH, we concentrate that extract under vacuum under reduced pressure at lower temperature, and we get an cardioactive glycoside rich extract. Now one can also extract these glycoside by fractional extraction, wherein first you go for deactivation of the enzyme, then you extract it with, say for example, alcohol or hydroalcoholic mixture. Now once you get a hydroalcoholic extract, again you precipitate out tannins or polyphenolic compounds, then you suspend that extract in water and treat it with petroleum ether or ether, which removes the other interfering substances. Then we extract the remaining suspension with chloroform to further purify it, and finally with chloroform alcohol ratios 2:1 or 3:2. This also gives you an extract that is rich in cardioactive glycosides. Now there are certain water soluble cardioactive glycosides which remain in the aqueous phase of the suspension. These can be further removed by saturating the aqueous phase with sodium sulfate, then again extracting it with chloroform alcohol mixture. So this is how you can get an extract that is rich in cardioactive glycosides. And if you want to further isolate individual cardioactive glycoside, then you can always go for chromatographic techniques like column chromatography, preparative HPLC, flash chromatography, medium pressure liquid chromatography, and so on and so forth. Now for less polar fractions or the glycosides, we always use neutral alumina in order to isolate these glycosides. And for more polar fractions or the fractions that contain more polar glycosides, they are first subjected to acetylation or benzoylation in order to further make them suitable for chromatographic separation, and they can be recovered by hydrolysis and then hydrolysis with bicarbonate salts. Once they are hydrolyzed, they are made free from sugars, one can easily separate the A-glycan molecules of these glycosides. Now we move on to different chemical tests that are being utilized for detecting the presence or absence of these cardioactive glycosides. Now if we go back to the structure of cardioactive glycosides, I can divide the structure of cardioactive glycosides in three components. One is the sugar component, second is the steroidal nucleus, and third is the lactone ring that is present or attached to the steroidal nucleus. So the chemical test can also be categorized or broadly divided into three categories. The tests that are required to ascertain the presence or absence of lactone ring. Second category of test is utilized to detect the presence or absence of steroidal nucleus. And third is for detecting the presence of sugar molecules. So if all the tests belonging to these three categories, you get a positive result, that will indicate your drug sample contains cardioactive glycosides. So say for example here I'll start with the chemical test for the lactone ring, and the first test is the legal test. In this test we take an alcoholic extract of the plant material and we add few drops of pyridine along with few drops of sodium nitroprusside solution. A 2% solution is made. To this mixture we add few drops of 20% sodium hydroxide, and if you get pink or deep red color, that will indicate the presence of a unsaturated lactone ring. Second test is the Baljet test. We take the alcoholic extract, we treat it with few drops of Baljet reagent, which is nothing but 1% aqueous picric acid solution in 10% sodium hydroxide, and if we get orange to red color in this test, that will again indicate the presence of unsaturated lactone ring in the plant material structure or the chemical constituents of the plant. Then third we have is the Cadès test. Now in Cadès test, the extract is treated with Cadès reagent, which is mixture of equal volumes of 2% solution of 3,5-dinitrobenzoic acid in methanol and 7.5% aqueous KOH solution. If you get blue or violet color that fades after some time, that will indicate a presence of the unsaturated lactone ring. Fourth test for lactone ring is the Raymond's test, and the alcoholic extract is treated with 0.1 ml of Raymond's reagent, and to this mixture we add 3-4 drops of 20% sodium hydroxide, and if you get violet color, that will indicate the presence of the lactone ring. Now these are the tests for determination of steroidal nucleus. First one is the most common one, Lieberman-Burkhardt test. It is largely used for detection of the steroidal nucleus, and in this extract is treated with acetic anhydride followed by addition of sulfuric acid. A purple, blue or greenish color indicates the steroidal moiety. Then you can also detect the presence by antimony trichloride test, in which extract is treated with antimony trichloride and trichloroacetic acid or TCA. It will give you a blue or violet color, that will again indicate the presence of steroidal nucleus. The third category of the test is for the sugars, and digitoxose sugar is the major sugar that has been found in the cardioactive glycosides, and to detect the presence of digitoxose sugar we have Keller-Kiliani test. In this, extract is treated with 0.5 ml of water and lead acetate is added to it, which helps in further removing of tannins and polyphenolic compounds, and the extract is filtrate. To the filtrate then we add chloroform, and again the chloroform layer is removed, it is dried, and to the residue glacial acetic acid along with small amount of ferric chloride and concentrated sulfuric acid is added. A reddish brown color which turns to blue on standing will indicate the presence of digitoxose sugar, and that will indicate that if you get all these tests positive, that will indicate the presence of cardioactive glycosides in the given plant material. Now if the cardioactive glycosides have other sugars, you can always test them by the normal carbohydrates test like Felling's test, Mollis test or Benedict's test. Now coming on to the uses of cardioactive glycosides, as I told you, they are largely used in congestive heart failure, and as they increase the force of contraction by inhibiting the sodium potassium ATPase enzyme. Now apart from CHF, these cardioactive glycosides are also used in different types of arrhythmias, that is the irregular type of heartbeats. In the past few years, say last 5 or 10 years, anti-cancer activity of these cardioactive glycosides have been identified. But the problem with that is the dose, as I told you, that dose factor is the critical factor in usage of these cardioactive glycosides, and some of the cardioactive glycosides in certain clinical trials have shown toxic effects, and therefore they were withdrawal from those clinical trials. But a lot of work is still going on in order to further evaluate the anti-cancer potential of these potent secondary metabolites that are obtained from plants. So friends, this was all about cardioactive glycosides, starting from their definition, their classification, their properties, their extraction, and how you can detect their presence or absence in the plants. Thank you.